I never expected a routine trip to the bank to shatter my entire existence. I was standing at the marble counter of the private wealth branch, holding a certified cashier's check for $28 million, my grandfather's final legacy, ready to surprise my husband, David. But before I could slide the deposit slip across, the senior bank officer stared at his screen, went completely pale, and muttered those chilling words. "Ma'am, according to our records, you've been divorced for 8 months." My breathing stopped instantly. I hadn't signed a single paper. People always say marriage is a partnership, a 50-50 split of heart and labor. For 7 years, I thought David and I were the definition of that dream. When we first met, we were just two struggling junior graphic designers sharing a cramped studio apartment that smelled perpetually of instant ramen and cheap coffee. Back then, I worked double shifts at a local diner and freelanced through the night just to keep our heads above water, while David climbed the corporate ladder at a prominent advertising agency. He had this incredible ambition, a natural charisma that commanded every room he walked into, and I was more than happy to be his foundation. I believed in him completely. I took care of the rent, managed the bills, cooked every meal, and quietly handled all the grueling, unglamorous back-end work so he could focus entirely on closing big accounts and cultivating his image as a rising executive. Whenever people praised David's rapid success, he would smile and say I was his anchor. I thought those words were sacred. But looking back, the warning signs were hiding right in plain sight. Over the past 2 years, the late nights at the office stretched into weekends, and his business trips multiplied. Whenever I tried to plan a quiet dinner together, he sighed, complaining about the crushing weight of our financial limitations and how hard he was working to secure our future. I swallowed my disappointment every single time, pouring even more love and silent labor into a home that was quietly slipping out of my hands. Everything changed on a rainy Tuesday morning when a certified letter arrived from a prominent estate law firm downtown. My reclusive maternal grandfather, Arthur Sterling, a man my family had long whispered was a penniless recluse, had passed away. To everyone's absolute astonishment, he had built a massive private logistics empire entirely under the radar. And as his only surviving blood relative, I wasn't just remembered in his will. I was named the sole heir to his entire $28 million estate. The estate executor, a sharp-eyed senior attorney named Harrison, handed me the preliminary trust documents in a sleek leather folder. When I saw the figures on the certified ledger, my hands trembled. $28 million in liquid assets, commercial real estate holdings, and private equity shares. Harrison looked at me across his polished mahogany desk and gave me one strict piece of legal advice. Keep it strictly confidential until the probate court finalized the transfer in 48 hours, warning me that sudden wealth attracts opportunistic predators. I agreed instantly. But my heart wasn't thinking about caution or courtrooms. It was overflowing with love and excitement for David. For 7 years, he had carried the invisible weight of our supposed financial struggles, constantly stressing over mortgages, car payments, and the high cost of living. I wanted to give him the ultimate surprise. I wanted to walk into our house, hand him the documentation, pay off every single debt we had, and book first-class, open-ended tickets to Switzerland to celebrate his upcoming birthday. I decided to make a quick stop at the private wealth bank branch downtown to process the initial emergency distribution transfer before heading home. I imagined the look of sheer disbelief and joy on David's face when I told him we were finally, completely free. I had no idea that the very building holding my new fortune was about to shatter the foundation of my entire life. The senior bank officer, Mr. Vance, adjusted his glasses, his expression shifting from routine professionalism to deep confusion. He tapped his keyboard again, peering closer at the high-security database on his monitor. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Sterling," he repeated slowly, as if testing the words to make sure he wasn't misreading the screen. "According to the municipal court records linked to your Social Security number, your marriage to David Sterling was legally dissolved 8 months ago. You are currently listed as single." The air left my lungs. My mind scrambled, trying to make sense of an impossible puzzle. 8 months ago? That was right in the middle of winter, when David and I had spent a quiet weekend together celebrating our anniversary, or so I thought. I had cooked his favorite roast. We had shared a bottle of wine, and he had kissed my forehead before going to work on Monday morning. Mr. Vance turned his monitor toward me slightly, pointing a manicured finger at the digital file. There it was, a full divorce decree, complete with case numbers, court stamps, and electronic signatures. My hands grew ice cold. I leaned closer, my eyes scanning the waiver of service document, the legal form where a spouse acknowledges notice of a divorce proceeding. At the bottom was my signature, except I had never signed it. It was a meticulous, chilling forgery. Every stroke of the pen had been copied from an old tax document or greeting card, duplicated with digital precision. As the pieces clicked together in my head, a sickening wave of clarity washed over me. This wasn't a clerical error. This was a premeditated trap. David hadn't been working late because of advertising deadlines or client pitches over the last year. He had been consulting attorneys, orchestrating a shadow life, and quietly cutting me out of his legal existence while I sat at home tending to our life, completely unaware. Why would he do it? The answer hit me with staggering force. Under state law, marital assets acquired during a marriage are subject to division. But if a couple is already legally divorced, especially if the filing frames the separation around financial desertion or incompatibility, future inheritances or sudden windfalls might escape joint claims, or worse, he had been positioning himself to protect his own hidden assets while bleeding our shared accounts dry. He hadn't just lied to me. He had erased me on paper while keeping me right where he wanted me at home. That evening, the city's grand ballroom glittered under crystal chandeliers for the annual Advertising Executive Gala. David was the guest of honor, receiving the prestigious Innovator of the Year award. I stood near the back of the room, dressed in a simple dark dress, watching from the shadows. On stage, David looked every bit the charming, successful visionary, standing beside his glamorous new executive assistant, who I now knew was much more than just a colleague. When the applause peaked, David took the microphone. He smiled warmly, looking out over the crowd of elite professionals, and delivered a speech about dedication, vision, and the sacrifices required to reach the top. Then came the words that made my blood run cold. I couldn't have achieved any of this without the unwavering support of my brilliant, hard-working wife, David said smoothly, his eyes scanning the room as polite applause rippled through the audience.
He wasn't talking about me.
He was talking about the life he had built behind my back, erasing my 27 years of devotion while weaponizing my existence for public optics. Instead of storming out, a cold, absolute calm settled over me. I didn't yell, and I didn't cause a scene from the back. I simply walked down the side aisle toward the stage stairs. In my hand, I held a thick, heavy manila folder containing the certified bank audit, the forged divorce decree from the municipal archives, and the official documentation of my $28 million inheritance trust. As David stepped away from the podium to a fresh wave of applause, I walked right up the steps. The stage lights caught the shock in his eyes as he realized who was standing beside him. Before security could react, I reached over and tapped the podium microphone. The feedback squealed softly, silencing the murmuring crowd. "Thank you for that lovely introduction, David," I said into the mic, my voice steady, clear, and carrying across the entire silent ballroom. Every head turned toward us. David's face drained of color, his practiced smile freezing into a mask of pure terror. "Honey, what are you doing?" he stammered, grabbing for my arm with trembling fingers. I gently stepped back, letting the manila folder rest open on the podium ledge. "I'm just helping you out with your timeline, David," I replied, looking straight into his wide, panicked eyes. "You forgot to mention that according to the court records you secretly filed 8 months ago, we aren't married at all. But don't worry, the federal fraud investigators and my estate attorneys are already reviewing your paperwork. Oh, and by the way, my grandfather just left me $28 million. Too bad you signed away your rights to my estate when you forged that divorce decree." The silence in the ballroom was absolute. Heads whipped back and forth between us, whispers erupted near the front tables, and David stood paralyzed, his career, his lies, and his stolen future collapsing around him in a single breath. The fallout was swift, clinical, and absolute. Within 48 hours of the gala, The glamorous veneer David had spent years constructing shattered into dust. The board of directors at his advertising agency received copies of the forensic audit, detailing how he had redirected company accounts and manipulated internal compliance documents to fund his lavish double life. By Wednesday morning, his badge was deactivated, his office was cleared out by security, and his name was quietly scrubbed from the executive directory. The legal consequences hit him with equal force. My estate attorneys and federal fraud investigators moved rapidly to freeze his personal assets, unearthing a trail of hidden debts, unauthorized loans, and corporate misdirection that made his position completely untenable. The ghost divorce he had engineered turned into a double-edged sword. Because he had fraudulently dissolved our marriage to shield himself, he had also legally severed any claim to the very stability and resources he had exploited for years. Late Thursday night, my phone buzzed incessantly on the kitchen counter. It was David. I let it ring out twice before tapping answer, keeping the speaker volume low. His polished executive confidence was completely gone, replaced by a frantic, breathless panic. "Please, you have to help me," he choked out, his voice cracking. "The board fired me. The bank is seizing my accounts, and my lawyers are saying I'm facing criminal charges. We can fix this, okay? We spent 28 years, 7 years building a life together. Just tell the investigators it was a misunderstanding. Please." I stood by the window of my quiet home, looking out at the dark street below, feeling nothing but a profound, steady peace. "I'm not punishing you, David," I replied, my voice calm and unwavering. "I'm simply letting you live the independent life you went to such great lengths to design. You wanted out of our marriage 8 months ago? Consider your wish granted. You built your entire future on deception and forgery. Now you get to experience the consequences all by yourself." "Wait, don't hang up." I pressed end. He tried calling back several more times, but I blocked his number permanently. Some doors, once closed by betrayal, can never be reopened. 3 years have passed since that night, and the view from the balcony of my new penthouse overlooking the city skyline is nothing short of breathtaking. There are no ghosts here, no forged signatures, and no hidden lives, just absolute, unshakable clarity. On my desk sits my grandfather's old leather journal, a quiet daily reminder of self-reliance and true worth. If you have ever stayed silent while someone took your kindness for weakness, let this be your sign. You are allowed to choose yourself. You don't have to carry the weight of someone else's deception. Brunch with Amy is at 11, and the sun is shining down on a future I built with my own 2 hands. If you've ever walked away from a foundation built on lies, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next story.